Thanks to the pandemic, we all know about overcoming adversity. Today's guest is a young, aspiring performer whose generation had to overcome challenges before him that no other generation has had to face. Today, we're going to learn how to get back up after setbacks and failures. We all face challenges, crucibles in life that make us or break us. What matters is how we respond to such roadblocks. That's really what defines us. Through inspirational stories from all walks of life, this podcast will provide you with techniques to overcome and grow from life's most challenging experiences. And now I'd like to introduce my next guest on Crucible, Andrew Maguire. He's an up-and-comer in the Broadway world, so keep track of his name, Andrew Maguire. He has graduated from the Oklahoma City University with a Bachelor of Music Theater, and his favorite roles he's played are Bobby Strong in You're in Town, Pippin in Pippin, and Matt in The Fantastics, as well as Newsies on the Town and Seussical. So welcome, Andrew.
Hi, thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks for that introduction.
Of course. You are going to be famous. I know it.
Oh.
And I mean that.
I hope so.
Yes.
That's a good, well, famous isn't the goal, but I do want to perform. That's the dream.
Right. I understand that. So let's clarify. We want you to achieve the dreams that you've got. So
Yeah.
But you've got the skills and the work ethic and everything to do it. So first, we should probably tell our listeners how we know each other.
Yeah, definitely.
That's kind of a crazy story.
Yeah. So I first met Miss A when I was a freshman in high school. So I was in concert band in middle school and thought I was going to go into marching band. That was my goal in high school, was to do the marching band thing. And at our high school, they didn't really let you do multiple after school activities, or they let you, but you had to juggle your time. And since marching band took up pretty much all your time after school, I had to make a choice. I had some friends who were in the choir world and they were going to audition for show choir. That was their thing. And they sort of convinced me to change trajectories. And shout out to Sylvia, Kinsey, Micah. They were the girls who I was friends with, who got me to audition. And it was sort of a last minute audition too. I think auditions had already happened.
Oh,
and I missed them. I think I don't even know. I think I sent you a video or something, or came in to sing for you one day.
Probably an email or something. I don't know. It's like, I don't know who you are, but okay, whatever. I was kind of like, you missed the deadline. So.
Always needs guys. So I kind of got special treatment there, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I ended up joining show choir and did it all 4 years of high school. That's how I met Miss A.
And that was
actually... Independence High
School here in Thompson Station, Tennessee. Yeah. And that actually reminds me of a funny story. I think it was the very first show choir rehearsal where we were doing some sort of like Beach Boys medley, I think, or something. No. And yes.
And we had one move in that show, or in the dance, where we had a big wooden surfboard that was carpeted on it. And Miss A, assigned me the part to be the surfer on the body. So we had a bunch of guys laying on the floor, and they would all at once start rolling in a certain direction, and I would put the board on top of them and get on and just surf across the people. It was fun. It was a fun first rehearsal.
Yeah, that was crazy. And, I stole that from show choir camp in Butler, in El Dorado, Kansas. And and I used that in several schools. I actually did it in probably 3 schools, but it was always a huge crowd pleaser. So it was like, oh my gosh,
definitely
big thing. And it was really a great opener for us because they had never seen show choirs. So show choirs are like non-existent here in Nashville, which is just unbelievable. It's all single artists, single solo artists, and their bands, and I figured this would be like show choir world. And
Right.
so we started from nothing. And thank goodness for Glee that had come out, I think the year before it came to Independence.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, I think the theater group, and a shout out to Becky Tersakian Williams, she wanted to be able to help me. And she drugged me to the first theater meeting. This was a year before I think you came on the scene. And, or maybe it was the same summer, I can't remember. And we started this quote unquote Glee club, and then we won the first national championship, and Todd Campbell at our first, at our last meeting was like, yeah, and I think we need to give kudos out to Mrs. A, because I think she won something really big this weekend, and I'm not really sure what it was. And you guys weren't there, but the teachers all turned around, just swooped around, looked at me like, who? What did she do? And
what is this club?
Yeah, exactly. And at that point, I felt like, okay, I'm on the map now. So, then we
I think I came in the year after that competition, so I remember hearing all about it.
Yes,
I was so jealous I wasn't there.
Well, I at least got the next 2 years with you, which was great. So,
it was.
Yeah, that was Colton Bartow, and man, we just drug anybody and everybody we could out of that theater group, to be in there.
Absolutely.
And taught a few kids how to sing on pitch that had never sung. And thankfully, you were not one of those, but you were a tenor, and you always had such a beautiful voice, Andrew. I mean, to the point.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome. So welcome. To the point that when I would come back and hear you guys sing, I mean, I just have tears in my eyes. Just hearing you and Isaac Thompson. So a shout out to Isaac as well. So
yeah, shout out Isaac.
Yeah, he's incredible as well. We had so many incredibly talented people in that group. And I know you're all going to go on and do just amazing, great things. I can't wait to follow your careers. So I did want to share, though, that you graduated in May of 2020 in the midst of COVID and complete lockdown. And, we were all affected by COVID in different ways, and yet in the same way, because none of us could live our lives, the way that we wanted to. So, yeah, I want you to delve into your story of what that was like. You should have been graduating in May, of 2020, big pomp and circumstance. And I knew that you had a bunch of stuff lined up in New York City. I kept in touch with your mom, and actually was in her dental office with my husband. And she shared that, and my heart just broke, because I just knew how devastating this is going to be. So there were a lot of plans that the school had planned for the seniors and that we had planned, so I guess I'll start right when things started to happen. It might have been January that we started hearing, just news about a new virus that was spreading really quickly, overseas. And I try and keep up to date a little bit on world news. So it was in the back of my mind, but I never ever imagined that it would become what it has. So then flash forward to I believe March is when school started to shut down and everything started shutting down. So we had it was the week before spring break. And me and a bunch of friends had planned a trip to New York, and our school's alumni puts together a bunch of workshops for OCU students who go up to New York for spring break. So I had signed up for that. I was going to take some classes with some casting directors, some prominent Broadway performers, and that sort of thing, and also see a bunch of shows. So I was really excited. Yeah, exactly.
But then I believe it was the Wednesday before we were going to leave. I think we were going to leave that Friday, that we got an email or just notifications on our phones that Broadway shut down, was shutting down indefinitely. And that never happens, here and there, Broadway might go dark for weather related purposes or things like that, but never has it just shut down with no date in sight that they would open back up again. So
Yeah, I
Once
think
that
that
happened,
even with 9/11, I mean, things shut down for a while, but then you're right,
right.
indefinitely. And being a music theater major, yeah, I would be
Yeah,
heartbroken.
it was scary for sure because at first we were just like bummed because our spring break plans were canceled, but we went home for spring break, and then they told us not to come back
Oh
and
no,
that we would be
stay home.
finishing out
Ah,
our school year from home, and so that was crazy. And with the degree that I got, any music degree or any acting or arts degrees, it it made it really, really weird and hard to take those classes because they're pretty much based upon being in a room together with other people. A lot of classes
right,
are the same, but math and like science, you can learn about. People have been learning about that remotely for a long time.
right. But performing
Um,
on a stage in your living room, yeah.
right, yeah,
And how do
or
you?
doing a jazz combo in your
Yeah,
in as much open space as you can find. It's really
yeah.
hard. Um, and then probably the biggest disappointment was so in our school at OCU, we have what's called a senior showcase, and
Mm,
that's when any performance major can audition for this showcase. Any performance major senior can audition for this showcase, and
sure.
we have casting directors come to our school to actually hold those auditions and
Mm-hmm.
select the people who would be like representing OCU in New York for this showcase. So I was lucky enough to be selected as one of those performers.
Surprise, surprise.
And
Yeah.
and rehearsals for that were slated to start like right after spring break. And then what
Mm,
would happen is we would rehearse for that for a few months leading up to graduation, and then we would graduate the very next day. We would hop on a plane up to New York, and we would put on that showcase for casting directors, agents, and those kind of people that we would invite to see us. And then we had that whole next week just blocked off for meetings and auditions and things like that from those people who saw you and invited you and liked what they saw. They wanted to invite you to like an interview, to maybe sign with an agency, or an audition for a national tour or a cruise ship or a Broadway show even maybe. So it's a very good opportunity to sort of get your face out there right when you're entering into the market
yeah.
as a performer. So even if nothing really comes of it, it's still a great opportunity, like I said, just to get your face out there. And,
And
it
your
wasn't,
voice.
yeah, in your voice. Exactly.
And your voice, exactly.
So our school tried to hold off as long as possible to see if it might be able to happen, because, in those first few months, we didn't know how long it would last. Maybe we'd be back in a month or 2 months or a few weeks. But eventually it got so close to the deadline that we ended up getting an email that it was canceled. And instead, in lieu of it, we got to like film like a self-tape basically of you singing what you would have sang for the showcase, or doing like a scene, because we had some just pure actors in the showcase as well. So doing whatever it was that you were going to do. And then we sent in that video to one of our professors who put together a website and just posted those videos. So we ended up having some sort of showcase in the end, in quotes. But it just really, it wasn't the same. And, even now, Broadway's starting to open back up and shows are starting to happen again. But even now, auditioning and that sort of thing doesn't look the same as it did before. And
Tell
all
me
that
more about about
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah,
how
for
does
sure.
it look different? Because I don't even know. I mean, I would assume
Yeah.
you go in a room and sing for people, and they'd either go, yeah,
Yay
kind of like
or
what
nay,
you see in the
basically.
movie. Yeah, basically, yeah.
So before COVID, auditioning, it looks, I mean, it depends on, who you are and what you're auditioning for. But
Sure.
for what I'm trying to do, I want to be primarily a performer in musicals or stage play, a stage performer. So those auditions would look, one way for maybe a dancer and another for a singer actor. So what would happen is if you are a member of the Actors Equity Association, you would maybe schedule an appointment to go in and be seen, do your 32 bar cut or something like that, or a monologue. But for someone who might not be a member of that association, what would happen before COVID was a thing, you would wake up super early and on a day that a certain show is holding an audition, you'd wake up super early, go to the studio that they're holding auditions in, and just sort of wait around, because they would first see the members of the association who had appointments, or people who have agents who got them appointments. Then they would move on to what's called an equity membership candidate, who has so they are people who might be eligible to become a member of the association eventually, but who haven't made that step yet. So they would see them first, and then if there's time, they would see anyone else. Wow. So what would happen is people would be waiting all day to get seen, and they might not even get seen at the end of the day. But you just gotta keep going, and really all it is you putting yourself in front of these people who, many of them will be the same person you'll go in and see. These casting directors work on a ton of different shows, so it's really all about networking. You could go in and sing like the best you've ever sang, and they don't know who you are, so they might not cast you immediately. But you got to keep putting yourself in front of them, for them to eventually call you back, get to know you, and that sort of thing. Right. But that's how it worked before COVID. And there would also be like these big cattle calls for dancers. They would have hundreds of people in one room, learning a combination. And then they would, if you've ever seen Chorus Line, that's exactly how it is. That opening number, you would do a combo, they would cut half the people, they would do another combo, cut half the people, down to the final 7 or whatever. So they finally let everybody go. But anyway, COVID happened, shows just weren't happening. So auditions weren't happening. But now that things are starting to open back up, I believe we've got pretty much every Broadway show is open again. There might be a couple more that haven't opened yet. But auditions are looking a lot differently now. So whereas self-tapes might have been not used very often, they are pretty much the primary pre-screening interview audition type thing. So
there you go. What a godsend, right?
Well, it's got its pros and cons for sure.
I bet.
Because, with an in-person audition, at least that you are in the same room as these people and you're having that connection. Whereas a self-tape, you don't get that. You film what you can, you send it in, and you don't even know if they see it. Right. You don't even know if the casting director is seeing it. Maybe it's just like their intern whose job it is to weed out, exactly. So really your fate's in the hands sometimes of, you don't even know who, you don't even know who's going to see it. So, but a pro is that you can actually take your time, learn the material, and send your best take, So that also can be a pro and con, because in the room you go in, do your best, and leave, and that's all you can do, But when you're given a situation where you can have as many takes as you want, sometimes you get into a loop and you critique every single little thing that you do in a video, and you're never going to have a perfect take. So you just end up sending the best one. And that could have been after 3 hours of work, and then you're tired vocally. And
exactly.
So yeah, that's how it's looking right now. Hopefully things start speeding up, and there will be more opportunities open up for people and for me. So
Yeah, that's awesome. What song did you like? What are some of your songs that you've done for your auditions?
Well, my go-to right now is probably Top of the World. It's from Tuck Everlasting. I think that it shows off my my voice in a good way and in ways that I could potentially be cast. So and the man who originated that role on Broadway, Andrew Keenan Bolger, is a similar type to me, I think. So that's how I kind of try and like to pick songs that I do, is to look at who's performed the role in the past and could I see myself doing it, and that sort of thing. So that's been my go-to, and it depends on the role too. I don't want to sing that song for every single thing.
Right.
And let's see, what else? Those Magic Changes from Grease is always good. Let's see. It's been a while since I've actually had an audition, so I haven't gone through my book in a second, but my book meaning, just my binder full of sheet music.
Sure. No, I get it. It's your golden book. Yeah. It's your playbook.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, and you did play Danny Zuko in our production of Grease. Yes.
I did. Yeah. Probably not a role I would play out in the real world, but high school is a different, different setting.
Animal.
But
yeah,
that was very fun. Very fun.
Yeah.
The only scenario where it's acceptable for the Danny to be shorter than the Sandy.
Oh. I thought you guys were the same height, but
we might have been similar, but then she was in those heels at the end. It just put another 3 inches on me.
Oh, yeah, I understand. That's not fair. My son is not as tall as he would like to be as well. He's like 5'6", but a great person and never apologizes for it. So
no, yeah, and I mean it definitely got me down a little bit in high school and maybe a little in college, but at this point there's so many, well, to bring it back to performing, there's so many roles that that do require like shorter actors. So there's not, if your goal is to perform, if that's your dream, doesn't matter your height, body type, vocal range, whatever, there's going to be parts for you if you really put yourself out there and try and give it 100%. You will be successful. That's what I've heard. That's what I've heard from every masterclass and people who come and speak at my school who are successful in their chosen path, whether it be performing or backstage.
Sure.
They all say, if you really put in the effort and the work, it'll work out for you. You'll be successful. So just got to keep at it.
Exactly. And that's so true, because you think of the people that you meet in real life that are actually like movie stars or whatever, people you see in movies, I'm talking A-listers. And always my first thought is, wow, that lady is really tiny, or she, or wow, this person is really short. They look like they're 6 foot on screen.
Right.
Thinking Tom Cruise.
Yeah, Tom Cruise.
Al Pacino.
Daniel Radcliffe.
Oh yeah, there's so many, and they just look ginormous as a screen star. And you're right, it really doesn't matter. And even the weight issue, which I love, they're just you're just taken for who you are, and that's one thing in that acting world that I wish the rest of the world could grab a hold of. That you don't have to be a certain shape, body type, whatever. Yeah. At least as a female, and not feel that pressure that you have to be like Barbie, And if you don't look like that, then you're next.
Yeah. There are definitely some areas in, the performing, the theater world that still need, some work in that area. But it's definitely getting better for sure. Definitely.
That's awesome. So what propels you when you say to keep putting yourself out there when you walk into an audition? Like, what is your mindset prior to that, during it, after it, all of it? Because it's
a good
sure
question.
it's not easy.
It is not easy. That's correct. And, you go through waves too. Like, you might have a couple weeks where you're really, really driven. You get 10 self-tapes done and submitted. You go and do an in-person audition. And then you might have other weeks or like a month or two where you're just tired and you're just trying to get by, doing your day job, paying rent, and and that's okay, as long as you have your goal in mind, and you're doing what you need to do to achieve that. It's okay to, be in that, the down side of it, the down slump, as long as you eventually pick yourself back up and keep going. But yeah, to answer your question, my mindset, I would say there's always going to be nerves before you go into an audition. And to me, that's another, I think that's also a pro and con about in-person auditions, is that you do have those nerves, and they can help you in some instances. Sometimes they can hurt you, but you just have to accept the nerves and realize that you're only nervous because you care a lot about it, and you just want to. Your primary goal in that quick 5-minute audition is to tell them who you are. You don't want to go in and try and tell them who you can be.
Right.
You want to go in and like show them who you are as a person and how you are to work with, or that sort of thing. So yeah, I would say definitely nerves, but in a good way.
Sure. Well, and as a high tenor, what do you think of, I mean, pedagogically?
Okay. Yeah.
To just, not nerve out. And because usually when people they sing high, they either press or push or, belt in a really poor fashion, So,
right.
Yeah, I'd love to know that.
Yeah,
being
for
your
sure.
former vocal teacher.
Yeah, exactly. And shout out to you, Miss A. Shout out to my voice teacher in college, Dr. Krause. Amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, so what I figured out through the years of lessons and practice is, well, practice is very, very important. And two, my sort of go-to or superpower in quotes
Sure.
is, if I focus on one thing, like technically, like vocal technically, it usually solves all my problems. So that one thing I think about is I just think about like my power placement on my body, which is my pelvis.
Sure.
So I just have that image in my mind, like breathing down to my pelvis or singing from my pelvis or that sort of thing. And, obviously sometimes there are going to be some issues when it comes to, high notes or any notes really. But, you always have to know, like, always come back to that. For me, always come back to that one thing and have that in your mind. And,
that's perfect.
That's all vocally, there's also, you have to think about acting too when you're trying to be a stage
so you don't
performer.
look crazy or
yeah. And that's where practice comes in because you really have to know the song, know the material. And that's how you're going to get the acting across as well. When you get to a point where you're not thinking about technique, if that makes sense. So I guess that's how I would answer your question is, I would think about all of those technique things in practice so that I wouldn't have to think about them in the room. It just happens automatically, So then you can focus all your attention on getting the story, the message across, rather than thinking about, oh, this note I have to breathe to my pelvis, or in this patter song I have to think like very steady breaths or very like a constant speed, So
Yeah, that's excellent.
Lots of technique talk.
Yeah, but I love it because it translates so much to real life because,
Hmm.
you know, I'm a health coach now.
Yeah.
And so a lot of what you've said about having the right mindset going into this stuff, if people don't have the right mindset before they decide to change their health, then they will not be successful. So while you're in that journey of, attempting to change your life healthy, for the more healthiness, or towards being more healthy, there are a lot of ups and downs, and people have, get really discouraged on those down slopes, and then they want to quit. And it's my job to come back in and say, possibly here's why, you're in a down slope. Here's what I have experienced, and I'm no expert. I'm not a fitness, educated person. I can just tell them from my own experience and hopefully help them. But you're right. It is so much about practice. And that's why we preach, at least in my health coaching business, it's all about having habits that are healthy. And so that when you get to that point where you cannot make a good decision, or you feel like your self-discipline is lagging or whatever, you just get into habit mode, and then you do the thing that makes you feel better, and you don't even think about it. So, I mean, I totally get that. And, both as a performer and a former performer, and as a conductor, as a teacher, in every realm of life where you're constantly trying to edit or whatever it is you're doing, you're trying to improve it for the better. And I just really thank you for that, Andrew. That's super, super awesome. So, well, I just want to thank you so much for joining us today, and for being in on this. And I truly cannot wait to follow your career.
Thank you.
I'm going to cry, but
Oh, Miss A.
I know, I love you so much, but I can't wait to be in the audience and see you on stage.
I can't wait for that either.
I know, and I'll probably distract you the whole time because I'll be crying going, yeah, go Andrew. He's my guy. He's my kid. So anyway.
Yeah. Oh, that'll be the best. That'll be the best. And you'll definitely be in my Tony acceptance speech along with,
Oh, I don't expect that, but
you will definitely. All my teachers couldn't have been here, couldn't have done anything without y'all. And like you said, it's hard in those down slopes, especially in high school, college. I experienced a lot of those. So it was my family, friends, teachers who, pulled me back up and, got my dreams back on course and that sort of thing. So,
yeah. Well, the other flip side of that, Andrew, is that as a teacher, you can only teach. And, seriously, show choir was like a sport, in the league that we were in. And you cannot coach kids that are not coachable. And you always were coachable. You were always on time. You were always professional. You always had done your work ahead of time. I mean, it was just obvious even in 9th grade that you were going to be a superstar. And I can say that because I've taught thousands and thousands and thousands of kids. And you just don't see that talent and work ethic come up just, magically. So a shout out to you and all that you are as a person as well. And thank goodness for Sylvia and Micah and Kenzie for dragging you into that rehearsal or into that audition. So that
absolutely
was just one of the sweetest gifts of my life, to meet you, to get to work with you. And I wished I could have finished your senior year. Please know that that's, that was God's timing, and it was just not my timing, and it was not something I wanted.
Just know I definitely don't hold that against you. I would have loved to have you. I would have loved to have you stay, but I know that you have to follow your path, and it led you to bigger and better things. So
well, and it led me to my family, and I did retire midst Andrew's career, so in high school, but I went back, and you were amazing in Pippin, and all the shows that Mrs. Terzakian Williams put together. So shout out to Becky for that too.
Yeah.
So
And show choir, it was kind of flip flop for me. Show choir was the first thing I joined, and that sort of led me into theater. So, without Miss A, without show choir, I don't know where I'd be, today. It might be still aspiring to be an architect. Yeah. I don't know.
I don't
marching
know.
band. Who knows?
It was a French horn. Didn't you play French horn?
I played the euphonium, the baritone is what I played. Yeah. So the in between the it's smaller than a tuba. So
right. Yeah.
Similar part as a trombone, I would say, is what it's comparable to. But
right.
Yeah.
We're
played that for maybe 2 years and then
and no offense to anybody that's in the instrumental industry and teachers, you would have been a knockout whatever you did. I just know that. So
thank you.
Even in architecture. So but you never know, right? God's got many uses, right? Many uses for you. So
definitely went through a time during COVID where I was like, maybe this is a sign.
I'm so glad you didn't give in to that.
Yeah. Yeah, me too.
So good for you, Andrew. And thanks again for being a guest on my podcast and Crucible.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. And best of luck. And I'm going to say, I shouldn't have said that. I should have just said break a leg. So
yeah, break a leg. That's right.
Break a leg, baby.
I will.
Okay. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
All right.
Yay.
Nice.
I cry on every one of these episodes, Matt. I'm so sorry. I do. I just can't help it.
We need to have like a late night television show, like, music, a song, or a sounder that plays every time you start crying. It's like Mary's crying section.
Yeah, one more time. Because I know it makes people feel awkward, but on the other hand, it's like I can't help it. So if I didn't care,
right.
and I've always been like that. If I didn't care, So well, tell me about your day job. I was going to ask about that, but I didn't want to do that in the current.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, I'm currently a recruiter right now. So I'm working remotely as a recruiter. So I'm working for a recruiting firm based in Phoenix. And our clients are a bunch of different things. They range from renewable energy companies to like manufacturing companies, and we usually recruit for like the upper level positions there. So like a plant manager or a vice president of sales or CFO or something like that. So cool. Yeah, it's not too bad. It can get a little boring sometimes, but I feel like it's a day job, so the grass is always greener. I think. True. So
and honestly, if you don't do those really mundane, boring day jobs, we've all done them. Mm-hmm. It won't give you that passion when you finally get to where it is you want to go. And then you're going to be on fire because you're going to remember those days of just being like, oh, geez, it's only been an hour and a half.
Right.
I thought it was time to quit. Yeah, it's time to quit. So
right.
Yeah. That's cool. Good for you.
Yeah, and it's really nice too because it's very like I honestly couldn't be in a better position day job wise because it's very flexible for auditions and that sort of thing. Usually when you're a performer, you can't have a job like during the day, like a 9 to 5, because that's when auditions are happening, Right. So you'd have to, wait tables, nanny, or like that sort of thing. So it's really, really nice to be able to do this. And, I've got an audition tomorrow, ran like very last minute. So I can tell my boss, like, I have to be gone from 2 to 4 tomorrow. And they'd be like, oh, that's fine. Just if you can make up the hours, that's great. If not, good luck, break a leg. So they're very supportive and it's very good. It's a very good situation.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, awesome. Well, you keep in touch. All right. I want to hear how things go. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I'd love for you to send me a clip of you singing.
I'll send you one of my
What?
self-tapes maybe. Or
No,
you
I
can
would love
honestly, if you didn't get to see my senior recital,
I did not.
all of those videos are on my YouTube channel. So
Oh, Andrew Maguire's YouTube channel?
Andrew Maguire's YouTube channel.
Love
Yeah.
it. Oh, go for you. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. So I just basically snipped up the recital into just the song. So if you want to check that out, go for it. Yeah.
Great.
I don't know. You might just look up Andrew Maguire and maybe recital or something, and it should pop up. But I'm not sure
Awesome.
what the exact channel name is.
Okay, that's great. Well,
Yeah.
I did follow you on Facebook and saw a picture of you and Sylvia and Cameron, I think, right? Or-
Let's see. It might have been, or Kaylee. Well, they visited me a few weeks ago up here in New York, and it
Yeah,
was
I get
Sylvia
her
and
confused.
yeah,
And
and Kaylee.
Yeah.
And then Griffin came up to visit.
Awesome.
I don't know if you ever met Griffin.
I
But
did,
he was
yeah.
okay.
I
Yeah,
knew him
he
just
was in a
from the
few.
acting field, field.
Yeah, he was in a few musicals, but he was mainly a cheerleader in high school. That's what he did. So,
Yeah,
but we became friends in senior year through theater.
awesome.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it was fun because it looked like you were recreating. You remember all the places you had on your list to go when we went to New York and
Yes.
sang for Carnegie?
Oh my
It
gosh.
was like, here you guys were at
Yeah.
the Brooklyn Bridge. And then it was like the next one. And the
Yeah,
next one.
we
And-
really did. Yeah, because I remember it was our last day in New York or something, and I was like, we hadn't visited the Brooklyn Bridge, and that was like one of my top things to see. So I like forced my mom and Sylvia and Micah to wake up super
Everybody.
early,
Yeah,
and
like up there.
we woke up at like 5 a.m. Not
I
kidding, and just like
remember all- I
rode all the
remember.
way down, walked across and back, and then just like came back, got on the bus, and then went to the airport. So
I remember. That was great.
yeah.
Those were good,
Yeah.
good times. So, all
Yeah.
right. Well, I suppose I got to let you go. Matt's
Yeah.
probably waiting.
Oh.
Well, go break a leg, seriously, and keep in touch.
Thank you. I will. Thank you so much again for having me.
You bet. Loved it.
Love you.
Love you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.